Chapter 10. Iraq. On August 3, 1990, in the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, appeared the following article entitled Jewish Organizations Praise Bush for Sanctioned Action Against Iraq. Jewish organizations praised President Bush on Thursday for moving swiftly to impose economic sanctions against Iraq after its troops invaded Kuwait. They also urged that U.S. allies join Washington in freezing all Iraqi assets in their countries and banning all trade with Baghdad. Marvin Sahlberg, national chairman of the Anti-Defamation League, said, quote, "If Iraq is not isolated immediately, it will be a clear signal that it has free rein to continue a policy of aggression and destruction," end quote. Iraq's ruler, Saddam Hussein, must be stopped, not only as a way of supporting Kuwaiti sovereignty, but to restrain him from striking at some other Arab oil-producing state and to prevent him from carrying out his threats against Israel, said Seymour Reich, chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations. At the same time, the Jewish organization saw the invasion as further proof that the United States must maintain the military strength of Israel as the only democratic and reliable ally in the Middle East. Shalom Komeh, president of the American Jewish Committee, said, quote, "The invasion reminds us of America's continuing need for strong, dependable allies around the world," end quote. Comey added, "In this connection, the importance of maintaining and strengthening the strategic relationship between the U.S. and Israel is clearly underlined," end quote. Robert Lifton, president of the American Jewish Congress, said that Israel was the only reliable bulwark against the expanding appetites of the Iraqi government. Bush imposed the economic sanctions after Iraqi troops crossed over the border into Kuwait early Thursday morning and easily routed the outnumbered Kuwaitis. Casualties were reported as heavy. Bush said, quote, "There is no place for this sort of naked aggression in today's world," end quote. He also froze Kuwaiti assets in the United States to keep them from any government Iraq might install. Kuwaiti's rulers fled to Saudi Arabia after the invasion. State Department spokesman Richard Boucher said the United States still considers them the legitimate government. He called a fraud Iraq's assertion that it had gone into Baghdad at the request of a revolutionary group in Kuwait. Iraq had been threatening Kuwait for weeks because Hussein claimed that Kuwait had been hurting Iraq's oil revenues by keeping the world price of oil low by glutting the market. Kuwaiti ambassador Sheikh Saad Nasir told a news conference, quote, "We would like to have military assistance in order to survive. I think U.S. intervention at this stage is of paramount importance," end quote. But Bush and other administration officials indicated the United States would not go beyond economic sanctions and moral support at this time. However, Bush ordered the giant aircraft carrier Independence, along with 6 escort ships, to the Persian Gulf from the Indian Ocean. They will join 8 U.S. warships already in the Gulf. Secretary of State James Baker, who was visiting Mongolia, was ordered by Bush to return Friday after first stopping in Moscow, where he will issue a joint statement with Soviet Foreign Minister Eduard Shevardnadze condemning the Iraqi action. Jewish groups were quick to point out that the invasion of Kuwait demonstrates that Hussein's threats cannot be ignored. Reich called him the new Hitler of the Middle East. Comey said, quote, "It is Hussein, after all, who brazenly violated international law with the use of chemical weapons both against Iran during the 8-year-long war and Iraq's own Kurdish minority. It is the very same Hussein who more recently threatened to use those same weapons against Israel," end quote. Reich also said that the Iraqi action makes clear that the Middle East peace process must include all Arab states and not focus just on the Palestinian issue. Reich said, quote, "Israel can conclude no settlement within the Palestinian Arabs while its neighbors persist in refusing to come to the peace table," end quote. Meanwhile, Bush's economic sanctions drew support in Congress, but many said the Bush administration should have acted long before the invasion. The following article appeared in the August 6, 1990 Jewish Telegraphic Agency entitled Israelis to Receive Gas Masks. As jittery Israelis learn they will soon be issued gas masks, government ministers emerged uncharacteristically reticent from Sunday's cabinet meeting, where Iraq's invasion of Kuwait was the chief topic discussed. Israel apparently will take no counteraction unless Iraqi troops intrude into Jordan, which Deputy Foreign Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called a very grave act to which we would respond. But Saddam Hussein's incursion into a neighboring Arab country shook up the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, the world's only exchange open on Sundays. The price of blue-chip securities fell 7.57%, and the market's main index plunged 19.65 points, to close at 240, the sharpest one-day drop since 1983. It followed Wall Street prices, which plummeted more than 70 points Friday in reaction to the effect of the Persian Gulf on the price of oil. One trader said prices fell in Israel because of the uncertainty regarding further developments in the Gulf region and Israeli military sources' announcement that the army is going to distribute gas masks to the population. The gas masks and anti-chemical warfare kits will be issued first in the densely populated Tel Aviv area and in Safed in the Galilee region. Distribution nationwide is expected to be completed by the end of the year. The measure was not unexpected, as plans to issue gas masks were made public some time ago following Hussein's threat in April to destroy half of Israel with chemical weapons. With Hussein now on the march, Israelis seem justifiably nervous. Iraq not only has chemical weapons, but the missiles to deliver them. Much of what transpired in the cabinet on Sunday was classified secret. Israel Radio reported several developments, however, attributing its information to experts who briefed the ministers. The consensus appears to be that the Iraqis do not seem to be preparing to attack Saudi Arabia. Most of Kuwait's advanced military equipment, excluding some planes and naval vessels, have fallen to Iraq. On Thursday, American Congressman Lawrence Smith of Florida angrily denounced the past sale to Kuwait of American Stinger missiles, which had long faced opposition in Congress. Smith said it could be assumed that the shoulder-fired missiles are now in the hands of the Iraqis. Meanwhile, Jordan and the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, have adopted subservient attitudes toward Iraq. Egypt finds itself severely embarrassed by Iraq's swift conquest of Kuwait. Iraq said Sunday that its troops were pulling out of Kuwait, but it appeared to be a bluff. Japan and Britain on Sunday joined the ranks of countries imposing sanctions on Iraq, and the Dutch government froze Kuwaiti assets in the Netherlands, which constitute between 7 and 10% of all foreign investments in Holland. Iraqi assets are small and will not be frozen, sources in Amsterdam said. Holland presently has substantial oil reserves and will not suffer severe shortages as it did during the Arab oil embargo of 1973. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, took an unprecedented measure Thursday when it condemned Iraq's military aggression against Kuwait and called for an immediate and unconditional withdrawal of all Iraqi forces from Kuwaiti territory. NATO has not previously reacted to armed conflicts outside its geographic sphere. The statement issued in Brussels Thursday denounced the incursion as a clear violation of the Charter of the United States. The following article appeared in the September 11, 1990 Jewish Telegraphic Agency entitled, "Force Should Be Used Against Iraq Only as a Last Resort." The United States and other countries opposed to Iraq's annexation of Kuwait should use force only as a last resort, former Israeli Defense Minister Yitzhak Rabin said on Sunday. Instead, there should be a political solution, without concessions to Iraqi President Saddam Hussein, Rabin said at an American Jewish Congress symposium. He said, quote, "Any attempt to please Saddam Hussein to give something for agreeing to withdraw from Kuwait will be detrimental to stability in the region. It will give encouragement to more violence, aggression, and the emergence of other leaders like Saddam Hussein." End quote. Rabin expressed concern even with humanitarian shipments of food or medicine to Iraq, which he said would allow that country to persevere far beyond the beginning of 1991. Iraq already has enough arms and spare parts to last a long time, he added. Rabin, whose Labour Party now leads the parliamentary opposition in Israel, said the Gulf crisis has yet to reach its most critical point, but he did not say what that would be. The focus is now on having Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev attempt to persuade Hussein to withdraw from Kuwait. How the crisis is resolved will decide the rules of the game on the international scene of the world in the post-Cold War period. At the Helsinki meeting, President Bush gave Gorbachev time to work politically to seek an Iraqi withdrawal from Kuwait. Should Gorbachev succeed, I don't know what will be the price of the delivery, Rabin said. But Rabin said he felt reassured by Bush's statement Sunday the United States opposes linking resolution of the Iraqi conflict with the Arab-Israeli conflict. Rabin said the Soviets should from now on be involved in discussions on resolving the Arab-Israeli conflict, but not as a participant in an international peace conference. Rather, the United States should consult with the Soviets in its efforts to bring about direct talks between Israel and the Palestinians. Rabin blamed the advent of Iraq's military power not only on years of Soviet armament, but on U.S. support of Iraq in the decade-long war between Iran and Iraq. He said the United States had the right idea when it shipped TOW missiles and other weaponry to Iran during the Iran-Contra affair. Rabin argued that no substantive discussions should occur on the Arab-Israeli peace process until the Iraqi crisis is resolved. But he said when the diplomatic process resumes, there should not be a push for an international peace conference on the Middle East, or even a meeting between Israel and the various Arab countries technically in a state of war with the Jewish state. One of the problems in lumping all the Arab countries together is that Iraq would use its leverage over Jordan to sabotage such a negotiating process. But Rabin said he views Syria totally differently as a result of its support of the economic sanctions and blockade against Iraq. He said he opposes any U.S. aid to Syria, but would support U.S. efforts to bolster Syria politically. On another subject, Rabin dismissed as total nonsense the argument that continuation of the Palestinian uprising in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip will at some point pose a threat to the very existence of Israel. That statement appeared to partially contradict one made earlier by Henry Siegman, American Jewish Conference Executive Vice President, who argued that problems posed by the territories are at least more threatening, if not infinitely more threatening, to Israel's security than perpetuation of the status quo.